In the kingdom of Larasia, 19 years have passed. Salar is no longer a prince. He's king now. Artem has grown into a man of 25. And Kiril, you already know him, rose from royal physician all the way to chief of medicine. A good life, a loving wife, two daughters, and real peace for once. But does peace even really last? Absolutely not. Because over the last 2 years, something dark has been happening in Larasia. Bodies show up in the shore with no warning and no pattern. Old men, women, even babies. That's what made it so hard to figure out. There was no clear target, no obvious reason. And it wasn't just one person doing it. It was a hidden armed group operating somewhere deep inside the kingdom. Their leader went by the name Kifors, a masked figure that even his own people barely even saw. No one had ever seen his face, not once, even of her son. I mean his son. King Salar still had no idea who they were, or how many of them there were, or at least where they come from, and that only made them bolder. The killings kept growing. So who are these people? Where did they come from? And who is this leader that nobody has ever seen? Keep watching, because the story starts right now. What's up guys, welcome back to Axra Daily channel. Okay, real talk. I'm thinking about changing the channel name, like Axra Daily, and I'm Aura here telling you stories? That doesn't that up. But honestly, I don't know. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Should I change it or keep it? Anyway, today we're continuing part 6 of the Legend of Larasia. I feel like I've been talking about Larasia for ages now. However, today you finally get to see what the kingdom looks like 19 years after the king Eden did. And you're stepping into Kiril's life, and his family, and his world, his everything routine in the human kingdom. If this is your first time here, go back and watch earlier episodes first. This story is too good to jump into from the middle. And while you are at it, hit that red button and leave a like in this video so we can keep this story going together. Alright, let's get into it. Inside the palace of Kiril Erebus, the night had different energy to it. Ambrosin and Birna getting ready for Artem's birthday party, 25 years old. As the king had plans to give his brother an official role that night. Commander of army, minister, or something big. It was that kind of evening. That's when Andromeda walked in, holding a black dress, with red embroidery running through it. She speaks when she enters. I brought you something to wear tonight. Ambrosin said, Mom, I told ya, I don't like black. We wear black all the time. I want something different. But Andromeda said, How? You are so pale that if you wear something light, you will look like you fell into a bucket of white paint. Berina nodded like a ghost, but Ambrosin shot her a look. Then Berina said, I mean, an angel. Ambrosin said, I want a blue, deep blue, that like the night sky. Andromeda said, that one was supposed to be Birna's. Another slow look at Birna, but Birna quickly said, it's fine, I will take the black one, the one with blood red design. Andromeda looked at her younger daughter with pure pride and said, that's my girl, I will go get the other dress. After like 3 hours, Birna was sitting in her room, staring out at the stars. When she felt someone watching her, she turned around, but Ambrosin was standing in the doorway, completely blank-faced, holding a golden cup full of blood. She said, Mom is still here. Berna said, so that's why you look stressed. Then she saw the cup. Her eyes lit up and she moved fast, lunging straight for it. Ambrosin panicked. The cup spilled and the blood hit the floor. The light in Berna's eyes went out the second she watched it spill. Every last drop gone. She turned to her sister, nearly to grab her by the hair. But Andromeda entered and said, what's wrong with you two? Andromeda stepped them and stopped them both. She looked at the mess on the floor, then at her daughters. She said, Berna, clean this up. Ambrosin, with me. Oh shit, she's in trouble. I told you. Just watch. She will get the punishment. Andromeda closed the door behind them and said, you are not child anymore. Ambrosin. And did you really think I wouldn't notice the dear blood missing from my cabinet? Ambrosin said, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Andromeda said, your father has a long day and he will be home late. Watch your sister until I am back. And please, don't do anything stupid. Ambrosin asked, wait, you are going out? Andromeda said, yes. And Andromeda walked out a door. Hey, hold on. Hold on. That's it? Where is the punishment? She stole from your cabinet, spilled blood everywhere, and you just left? You know, this reminds me of when I used to spill water on the floor at home. I did not get a speech. I got the slipper immediately. Ambrosin back to her sister's room. Then Ambrosin said, take it. It's another half bottle of deer blood. Take it. And don't tell mom or dad I went out. Deal? Birina took the bottle, looked at it, then looked up, then said, "Your secret will go down with this bottle." Prince Artem was not where he was supposed to be. He'd done the classic move, pillows under the blanket, a convincing shape, and out through the palace secret passage. Now, he was standing near the beach, getting more annoyed by the second. He said, "Did it just get stood up? Where is she?" Then he stopped them. A soldier patrol moving along the shore, searching for clothes or another body. Artem froze. He couldn't get caught sneaking out on the night of his own birthday. He was about to run when a hand grabbed him and pulled him fast into the trees. Ambrosin said, "Climb the tree now." But Artem said, "What? No!" She was already climbing. Then she said, "Then stay down there and let him catch ya." But Artem said, "Okay, help me up." The patrol passed right below them, never looked up, never noticed. They moved on, and the beach went quiet. Ambrosin said, "See? Without me, you'd already be explaining yourself to your brother." Artem said, "Lucky. That's all it was." She grabbed his hand and pulled him along, and they both tripped and hit the ground. Artem lay there, actually in pain. Ambrosin said, "What happened, Sir Knight?" He didn't answer, but he took her hand when she held her out, because she'd already moved on. Ambrosin said, "I found another body." But Artem replied, "Not falling for that." Artem, "I'm serious." Artem said, "Where?" "You know what? It's right next to subscribe and like button. Go ahead, I will wait for you." Everything followed her nose, that sharp sense of smell that never got it wrong. She moved along the shore and stopped and said, "Here." Artem said, "I don't see anything." Amberson said, "You are standing on it." He looked down, mud, dark, wet, freshly moved mud. He stepped back, disgusted. Artem said, "Why didn't you say something before I..." "Don't worry about it. Help me dig." Ambrosine grabbed a stick and started poking the ground while Artem cleared the surface. Together, they pulled the body out. A man looked about 40, face down in the mud. Artem said, "Are they burying the bodies now?" "What's stranger?" Ambrosine said, then finished the thought to herself. The smell of blood is still fresh. He wasn't killed long ago. Artem grabbed the body and started dragging. "We're looking into this to ourselves. Help me." 2 steps later, his foot slipped and he went flat on his back into the mud. Ambrosine let go of the body and said, "Are you okay?" Artem said, "I'm fine." He pushed himself up slowly and slipped again, face first. What comes out of Artem's mouth next was not birthday celebration language. Everything burst out laughing, but Artem had gone quiet. His eyes caught something just under the surface near me. He got up and called out, "Emru, come look at this right now." Embrusin said, "Nice try, dude. I'm not falling for the distraction." He ignored her and started digging. Artem said, "There is something else here." Her smile disappeared. She was next to him in a second, and what they found made her stop breathing for a moment. "Another body?" Artem said. "There are more, a lot more, right here." He stood up, covered in mud, completely serious now. He said, "We need to tell King Salar. Now." He took off toward the palace. Behind him, Ambrosin quietly covered the first body back over, away from the patrol's path. They'd report the race, but that one was there to look into. Salar was moving through the palace hall, guards around him, and Leonid, his personal guard, right at his side. King Salar said, "Are you sure about this?" His voice was steady and firm, but his eyes told a different story. Leonid said, "Yes, Your Majesty. The killings are getting worse. I'm worried the people in the city will find out soon." And yesterday, the guards found 3 more bodies, 2 men and a woman in her 20s. Salar pressed his lips together and said nothing. They reached the examination room, where Kiril was already waiting. The moment Salar walked in, Kiril turned and Gasser tore the bodies lie down before them. King Salar said, "These are the ones?" Kiril said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Salar looked them over slowly. He was searching for something, but whatever it was, he didn't find it. Leonid said, "Is something wrong, Your Majesty?" Salar turned and looked out without answering. Over his shoulder, he said, "Erebus, deal with the bodies and bring me anything new." Kiril said, "Of course, Your Majesty." Hours later, Salar was alone on the balcony, looking up at the stars. For a long moment, he just stared at them. Then, quietly, almost to himself, "I wonder, are you still out there?" Before he could sit with that thought, Joyce came in, carrying his dinner. When she entered, she said, "Your food is ready, Salar." But Salar said, "Leave it inside, so it doesn't get cold." Quick note, after the old king died, Salar never took concubine. He gave the woman who'd served in the palace before a real place to stay, letting them live there, and run the household. Joyce was different from all of them thought. She'd been close to him since he was young, The kind of person who looked after him, gave him advice, and actually cared. She was more like a mother than anything else. Joyce sat down next to him. Are you still looking for her? Salar said, yes, and I am starting to think she might be gone. Then the balcony door swung open. Artem stumbled in, completely covered in mud, wiping his face with a handkerchief, barely catching his breath. Salar said, what's wrong with you? Are you still acting like a child? Look at yourself. And how did you even get in here without the guard seeing you? Artem held up a hand, still breathing hard, and leaned against the balcony rails. At the same time, Joyce found Ruby waiting in her room. Ruby said, what do we do now? It's been years, Joyce. Years of searching of Lydia, and nothing. Joyce said, I don't know. I'm starting to lose hope. Maybe she's just gone. Ruby said, don't say that. We made a promise. We look until we found her. Joyce said, okay, keep searching the markets. I'll find someone else to help look too. Every day, or close to it, Ruby was head out to the markets with a basket in hand, looking like she was just there to shop. But her eyes were almost moving, always scanning any girl who looked close to Radia's age. This time, Ruby would find a way to look at her wrist, just a glance, searching for that one scar. It never turned up. Then one day, while walking through the market, she passed an old woman sitting on the ground begging. Something clicked. Ruby walked over, talked to her for a moment, then swapped her fine cloth for the woman's worn one right there in the street. From that day on, she walked through the crowd as a grieving mother, looking for her lost daughter. And people listened. Nobody ignored her. Most of them felt sorry for her and stopped it to help. Weeks went by like this. Then one afternoon, just as Ruby was worn out and ready to head back to the palace, an old woman called out her. Old woman said, I know your daughter. But Ruby almost kept walking. Probably a scam, but something made her stop. So she asked the woman to describe her, just to test her. The woman described Rita perfectly. Ruby went still and listening. Old women start talking. She was a sweet girl. I found her alone in the street one day and asked about her family. She said she had none. I felt for her. I was alone too. So I told her she could stay with me, and she did. For months, she'd go out and work during the day and come home at night. It was nice having someone around. She paused, then said, but one day we find out she was pregnant. Ruby's chest tightened. Then old woman said she never got to be happy about it for long, and she never even got to meet her child. One day, she was on her way home one evening when a group of men stopped her in the road. They killed her. Like I said, I'm very bad at voice acting. Maybe I need a girl to help me at that. Ruby stood there, not knowing what to feel. Happy that she finally had news, heartbroken and what that news was, or shocked that Lydia had been killing a child. She thanked the woman quietly and walked back to the palace to tell Joyce and the others. By the king's order, the area where bodies were found was completely sealed off. No one in, no one off. Soldiers spinning across the site, pulling bodies from the ground one by one. Dozens of them. Men, women, no pattern, no reasons, just death, scarred and bearing like it meant nothing. It shocked the soldiers who were doing the digging. You could see it on their faces. Salar stood in front of it all, Lionel at his side, taking in off the scale what was in front of him. Then one of the palace guards came running toward him, breathing hard. Guard said, Your Majesty, there is a huge crowd gathering outside the palace gates. Lionel turned to Salar. The news got out? Salar said, Yes, it spread. Lionel said, What do we do? King Salar said, I'll talk of them. Don't worry. They are my people, and eventually they are my family too. And they'll help us. He turned to leave. Then he stopped. Two soldiers were carrying the body of a young blonde girl through the side. Something made him look twice. Salar said, Stop. He looked over and looked at her. Then his eyes dropped to her wrist. There it was, a scar. In one of the palace examination rooms, Kiril stood over a body alongside the head guard and the captain of the guard and a few soldiers who had been following the bodies from the shore. The room was packed, bodies lined up side by side, waiting to be checked. Kiril said, Tell His Majesty they were killed in a different ways. No two deaths are the same, but every single of them has the same mark on their neck, an X. He paused, then added, Also, some of them fought back. You can tell from the injuries. Others were physically too weak to resist the roll. Captain said, So we are not dealing with one killer, we are dealing with a group. Kiril said, That's what it looks like, but we can't say for a certain yet. His servant said, His Majesty not gonna happy about this. The captain said, we're tightening surveillance across the city. Push harder. Anyone suspicious, we bring them in. Everyone filled out. The room went quiet. Kiril stood alone between the rows of bodies. Then he was thinking about, what if they subscribe to Axel Daily channel? Then they want to die. You understand what I mean, huh? Kiril said, you can come out. They're all gone. And Romina stepped out from behind the black curtains where she'd been hiding. Then she said, are you done? Kiril said, not even close. There are still a lot of bodies to go through. The work is hard tonight. And also doing a videos is more harder than that. But you can make it easy. I smashed that red button. Kiril looked around the room for a moment. Do you think we made the right call coming here? Are our doors gonna be okay in this place? Andromeda walked over to hold him. Then he caught a smell, a familiar smell, too familiar. He said, wait. He moved to one of the bodies and laid it, and his expression changed completely. He said, Embrucine? He turned and looked at his wife with sharp eyes, no words needed. Andromeda stepped closer, caught the same scent, and her face dropped. Then she said, that's impossible. It can't be here. Kiril said angrily, do you let her leave the house? Andromeda said, no, absolutely no. Only when I come to you. I don't know if she goes out during the time talk. Andromeda didn't say another word. She went straight the window, jumped out, and ran home at full speed, using every bit of strength she had. But will she find her at home? High up in the mountains around Larasia, when the peaks looked over the kingdom far below. That's where they had been hiding all along. Black tents sat against the rocky cliffs, and the caves glowed with torchlight behind them, carved into the stone walls, were the same symbols found on every single victim. The same mark, over and over again. Hundreds of men and women stood outside, armed and waiting. Then they saw him, a huge figure walking toward them through the dark, slow, heavy steps, like someone who had never once rushed for anything in his life. And the moment they recognized him, the mountain came alive. All they said, Kifors, Kifors, Kifors. The masked man raised one gloved hand. Every voice stepped at once. He turned to his right hand man and gave one quiet nod. That was enough. The man stepped forward and spoke for him. His name was Arnold. He said, a message from Lord Kifors. Today, the people of Larasia find out we existed, which means starting now, every soldier and every guard in that kingdom will be hunting for us. So stay low, stay ready, because tonight we move. We are going to drop bodies and the palace gates, their own people. Two groups. The first goes out, kills anyone in their path, and gets the bodies to back gate. The second, those of you already inside the palace, working as servants and guards. You open the way and scatter what's left around the palace grounds. Make them feel what our people felt. And everyone shouted, Kifors, Kifors, Kifors. Arnold glanced at Kifors. Kifors nodded slowly. That was all. Honestly, there weren't any people at the time. I was just holding a sheet of paper to make speaking a little easier for myself. Okay, after Arnold finished his word, the two of them walked back into the cave, and behind him the crowd broke apart. Names were called, groups were formed, and each one moved under their assigned leader. The mountain went quiet again, but something had started, and it wasn't going to stop. So, what happens next to the kingdom of Larasia? How will Salar face an enemy he can't even see? And who is the man hiding behind that mask? And more importantly, how will they get inside the palace? Where has Imbrusim been going whenever his mother isn't around? Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, because Larasia Dark's days are still ahead. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And write down in the comment if you wanted to continue this story. See you in the next episode.